Structures. Now this is the fun part. This is where, we have jobs are in a grade. Everybody's in a job. Every job's in a grade. Okay? So grade 5. What do you want to pay? Oh, it's so nice. It makes pay decisions faster and better when you have a structure. So instead of negotiating from a blank sheet of paper, you say, well, that job, we evaluated it grade 5. We benchmarked it, and we benchmarked all the other grade 5 jobs. And so, that helped us derive this midpoint for grade 5 jobs. This is more or less competitive for the jobs in grade 5 based on benchmarking. So we're going to start new hires, in the lower half of the range. So you've just given yourself a head start on the salary negotiation that you have a bit of a range to work with. And then you look at what the person's requirements are. Okay, or you can ask what the last drawn is, but keep in mind, just don't try to perpetuate gender gaps and stuff like that may exist in the market. But try to have a sense of where you want to pay in the market. This minimum, supposing that is equal to 20% less. So in fact, this is a plus minus 20% structure. $400 from here down to here. 400 is 20% of 2000. If I go up to 2004, that's plus 20%. If I go down, that's minus 40%. We also call that a 50% range if you take this $800 and compare it not to the midpoint, but to the minimum. This spread, max to min, or min to max, $800, divided by the minimum, which is 1,006, that's 50%, 0.5. 800 over 1,006, that's 0.5, 50%. We also can call it plus minus 20%. If you're using plus minus 20%, this minimum is probably close to your 25th percentile in the market. I just happen to know that in Singapore, if you take 20% off of the market median, that gets you roughly down to the 25th percentile. So there you go. So a structure can really speed up your pay decision making. All right. We also look at the midpoint differential from here to here, here to here, here to here. In this example, it's 15%. It doesn't have to be the same, but many companies will try to have a regressed structure, a smooth midpoint progression where the percentage increase from one midpoint to the next grade midpoint is the same percentage each time. 15%, 15%, 15%. Okay. So those are two of the parameters of structure design that we observe and can design it, is to have the range spread that we want, how far should this be, and then the differential. There's no one correct answer. It's whatever you want it to be. Tomorrow and the next day when we do the Excel work, we'll talk more about the different options and why you would do this and why you would do that. This is just teaching you the terminology. Okay, why do we have salary ranges though? Because the market is not a single number. You cannot say that in the market an electrical engineer gets $6,000. That's a false statement. There's a whole range of numbers that people get. Some people get 4,005. Some people get 8 for the same job. I don't just mean a more senior, more less senior, for roughly the same job. Even in the same company, somebody makes 6, somebody makes 6,005, somebody makes 7. So the market is not a single number. And so the salary ranges is sort of a simulation or a model of the market. The market's like this, okay? There's numbers all over the place. The market salary range tries to sort of match the midpoint to that median of the market, if that's your philosophy, is to pay median. And then your minimum and maximum should align where you like it so that you have access to most of the market, but you don't want to pay like the top of market. And you also don't want to pay the bottom end of market because, they just won't stick around. You might save a few dollars for a few months, but, they're going to leave. So, yeah, the midpoint aligns to the middle of the market, or at least where you want to be. It's not a single number. And the range allows us differentiation. We don't want to pay equally. We want to pay equitably. Some more, some less, based on things like performance. Okay. Here's another way to look at a pay structure. You can see a minimum, midpoint, and maximum by grade. You can see there's overlap. Here's somebody can make, almost, let's say $7,000 in grade 13, but they could also make $7,000 in grade 15. So the ranges overlap. Somebody may have a smaller job, but they may be a superstar performer in that job compared to a relatively new manager up in this grade. So it is possible. It's not true that everybody in the higher grades has to make more than everybody in the lower grades. There can be some overlap. Some people plateau at the top of the range. They don't really care to learn anymore. They don't really aspire to a higher level. They're happy where they are, and that's okay. I wish every payroll manager in the world was happy where they are, because if a payroll manager turns over, it's really stressful, isn't it? If you lose your payroll manager, right? That's a really, really sensitive job. Okay, so ranges tend to overlap, and this is just an illustration of plus minus 20, but I'm not suggesting that that's the correct. It's just a common range. We use the term compare ratio to compare a salary to the midpoint. So we say that if the salary is equal to the salary range midpoint, we call that a 100% compare ratio. Salary divided by midpoint is 100 or 100%. That's a compare ratio. We say that our top performers should have a compare ratio of 110 or above, right? If you bring in a top performer in the lower end of the range and you just, give them the AI every year and they get a high rating, so they get an extra 1 or 2%, and the range is moving up each year a little bit, they'll never make it to the upper end of the range. So one thing, just piece of advice, is if you have identified some, your top 10% of employees, high potentials, key talents, don't wait for your salary guideline to get them up there bit by bit by bit. It'll take too long. They may not last. You got to teach your managers to identify those people, move them fast, get them up here in a couple of years. Yes, a couple of years. That means you can't give everybody an average increase. You won't have enough money to move your really key talents ahead. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Managers don't want to have any tough conversations by giving anybody anything less than the budget, right? They want to give everybody, keep them whole, give them the average. But then, like, HR, I'm going to lose my best talent. I need you to do something. I need a retention bonus. Problem is, they're spreading the peanut butter. They're just giving everybody the same thing because they don't want any drama. What managers have to learn to do is figure out who is not critical to the future of their department. Now, this is not a personal judgment against somebody. We love everybody. When people leave, we give them a party, we give them a hug, and we make a video for them. But some people could be replaced at cheaper cost and better talent. Let's just be honest, okay? It's hard to do. It's hard to give somebody a zero increase. I've done it. In my 30s, okay, I'm 60 now. When I was in my 30s, I managed a team of 8 people doing comp and benefits for a tech company. One of the ladies reporting to me was in her 50s. She could have been my mom. I gave her a 2 rating, meets some expectations, and I gave her 0 increase that year. And boy, did she make me feel guilty, or she tried anyway. Tom, in 16 years with the company, I've never had anything less than a 3 rating. I've always gotten my raise. She was in charge of workers' compensation, which means the work-related illness and work-related injuries. We have factories. People got hurt on the job. And so she had reports from that special insurance company that we use for workers' comp injuries. And she left those reports out on her desk every night with names, medical conditions, age, contact information. That's sensitive private information, who's sick, who got hurt, and all that. So she left it out on her desk. And I told her that's unacceptable. And so I even made sure that there was storage space, locked file cabinets in a locked HR storage room, all these things. She didn't change her habits. She left those reports out. If I walk by, I put something on top of it. But I don't put it away. That's her job. Okay? So at review time, I told her that was unacceptable. I could have fired her for insubordination, but I'm not that mean. I just said, you're going to get a 2. You do not meet expectations in my mind. You cannot just leave sensitive personal data out on your desk for the world to see when they walk by and expect to get your average raise. But Tom, I've never gotten less than a C rating. No one's ever mentioned anything about these reports. Well, I said, I have, and it's unacceptable. Okay? And I gave her a 0 rating. She gave me all the guilt trip, she booked me on a first class flight to Guilt Island, so she tried to send me off on a guilt trip. It was actually an easy conversation for me. It was really obvious. What I could not tell her is that I have 2 ladies. One manages my health benefits, one manages my retirement benefits. They're both superstars, and I needed extra money for them. So I can't really tell this lady that her money has gone to those 2 ladies. But that's how I plan it. But you can't talk about other people, right? But the point I'm making is managers should not spread the peanut butter at review time and then come running to HR that their top talent is leaving. They have enough money. They just don't have enough courage to allocate that money the way they should. I wrote a blog called Courage, Peanut Butter, and Talent Retention. And it's a pretty popular blog. So anyway. Okay, that's on freelancetotalrewards.com. You can find that blog. It's the most recent one there. So comp ratio really is a management tool. It's not meant to be communicated. Joanne, here's your raise, and by the way, you're a comp ratio 90. Huh? What does it mean, comp ratio 90? Oh, that means you're paid 10% below midpoint. What? I'm underpaid. I'm only paid at 90. Yulin, your comp ratio is 110. What does that mean? Oh, that means you're paid 10% above the midpoint, which is like the market. No way. You're telling me I'm overpaid? I went online. I'm underpaid. The recruiter told me I'm worth a whole lot more. That's not right. That number can't be right. Let me tell you, my 37 years of experience of doing comp, you're never going to win communicating a single number. Don't communicate midpoints. Don't communicate market value. Don't communicate comp ratio. Managers should tell the employee what their pay decision is and the types of considerations, but not the specific numbers. I have a budget. I looked at your performance. I considered the rest of the group, right? I considered, what you've learned and how you're equipping yourself, which may or may not be that much for the future, and our business needs going forward. Now, here's what I've decided to give you. Okay, we had our performance discussion. Here's my pay decision. So it should be not a mixed message, but it should be, consistent with the performance message. And this is what I've decided to give you. They don't expect to hear what other people got. They're probably not going to ask you what's the average or what's the budget, but they might. But if they do, they say, why do you need to know? Really, why do you need to know? Here's what I've decided to give you. Managers feel that they got to score points with their people by telling them everything they know. Here's your comp ratio. Oh, here the merit budget was 3.5, and I got 3.3, and you say I'm strong? Huh? Managers blow it all the time. They communicate too much. We should explain how things work. We benchmark against Mercer. We use Mercer job evaluation system or the Hay system. I have a limited budget. I considered your performance. I have guidance from HR. I considered, the group and stuff, and here's what I've decided to do. That's how you communicate it. Okay, but comp ratio is a really important tool for management, not intended to be communicated to the employee, but to help the manager decide, hey, this person's paid really high in the range. Probably I can give them a little bit less, and they're not going to leave. They'll make a bunch of noise if they get a small percentage, but they're not likely to leave because they're paid really well for what they do. Okay? So we have to train our managers, give them the appropriate data, and explain it to them. Very, very important. Okay, so we can then look at data like this and start to form opinions and do some modeling, and we develop our structures, and we say, who's the outlier here? Grade 7 paid almost at 6,000. That must be Esther, paid 5,878. Why is Esther so high? Oh, she used to be in a regional role, but we eliminated that. We consolidated regions from 3 to 2. We don't need 3. regional heads of marketing. So we made her a country head of marketing grade 7, but we grandfathered her salary. She used to be over here in range. Now, oh, yeah, I remember we grandfathered Esther's salary. Okay. So she doesn't get a raise. She gets a lump sum. Okay. We don't raise her salary any higher until the range catches up with her. Each year you update the ranges catch up. At some point, she'll have some headroom to get a raise. But right now, she has no headroom. She's over the max. Okay. Joan, question.
Yes. For lump sum, for those who hit max and we give lump sum, is it a must to give the employee the lump sum?
No.
Or not necessarily a must, right?
There's a few companies who just give nothing, but I will say probably 9 out of 10 give a lump sum.
Okay.
So now, how much of the lump sum? Now, if the salary was here in the upper quartile, let's say they get 2.5% or just 2%. Let's say they get 2%. So the lump sum, many companies will say, you get 2%, but it's not a raise. It's just 2% of your annual salary paid with the next payroll. But your salary rate remains the same. So many companies will take the same percentage as if they were high in the range, but simply deliver it as a lump sum instead of a raise. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, some companies will use a smaller percentage. I think most use the same percentage, but they just deliver it as a lump sum. And then there's a few companies who just give you nothing, which kind of pisses them off because how did they get there in the first place? Probably by being a very strong employee. And now you're penalizing me for being loyal. And they have a really good speech to make, and you have to be able to respond to that speech. I say, well, I wish somebody would penalize me and move me up to the top of the range. No, I can't say that. But the manager can say, Arthur, I understand your frustration that you can't get a raise anymore. Trust me, I'd love to give you more money, but it's really hard to justify giving you more money when you're paid over the maximum for what you do, okay? People making what you make generally have bigger jobs. So if you want the opportunity to get a more raise, and I would love to get you there, but let's get you ready in case there's another opening at a higher level, okay? Let's get out your development plan. So you have to turn the pay discussion into a development discussion. Okay. All right. Managers complain the ranges are too low. I have my star candidate. This is what they require. Okay, well, tell you what, manager, come to HR early enough so that we can find multiple candidates for you. Don't come to me one fine day with one must-have candidate. We didn't even know you were hiring, and we could have sourced more candidates. But now all you have is one candidate. Okay, so yeah. Managers, please don't push for a higher grade just so that there's a higher salary range. We're going to grade the job based on the job content, not on what your star candidate makes or what somebody's arguing to get. Okay? If they want more money, get value for money. Let's talk about getting you into a bigger job. Don't promote somebody just to increase their income. Oh, boss, I'm married now. My wife's is pregnant and our car's old. How can I make more money? Can you promote me? I'm due. Nah. Let's help people take on more work to justify an upgrade or a promotion. Get value for money, that value that means something to the customer. If you raise your prices on your customers for what you do, they're going to ask you, what do I get for it? Right? How come managers don't do the same thing? People want to get a raise for the same thing, for the same contribution. They got to think value for money.